Hey everyone!
We wanted to do a quick video to talk about 5 things we're doing as a family, and maybe that some of you all can do with your family to really build a lasting legacy, and especially for young families,
Yep.
kind of lay that foundation to set your family up for long-term success.
Long-lasting family foundation. Love it. Let's do it.
Number 1 is the family history and story. So one, we just want to make sure that we really knew like what our family story was from both sides. We wanted to make sure we understood her family story, my family story, and just the history to make sure that we can pass that down to our kids. And if they have questions about their grandparents or great grandparents, we're going to have some of those stories, fun and meaningful stories to kind of share. And especially with your family coming from Zimbabwe, I feel like that's a great story that we want to make sure we understood and captured.
So what we did for us is we did an interview with both set of parents. The interview was about an hour, 30 minutes long. They were loving the interview, right? And we got to ask them about 20 questions of what we felt like would really give us a good understanding of their family roots and their family culture and stuff like that. And it was so interesting to me because I felt like during this interview, like we both know our parents really well. We're both really close to our families, right? We learned so much about them, and it explains so much of how they are and how they do things and what's really important from them just by learning about them and their family's history.
Yeah. And obviously we're fortunate to have both sets of grandparents or both sets of parents, but I feel like you can get some of this good information, just talking to anyone, who's part of your family. Whether it's a great grandparent who's still alive, or your parents, or another family member. We just want to make sure that we have some of those stories to share, and it's in a way that is fun for our kids to kind of listen and learn.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really powerful that we did these videos in their voice and their words, right? Because I feel like it's very different coming from us, like, hey, your grandma used to like this, or this is a story about your great-great-great-grandfather, but hearing it from like our parents themselves speaking it and talking to the camera was really powerful.
Number 2, so once we kind of understood like the family history and story, we wanted to establish our own kind of family mission and core values, things that were going to be important to us, important traits, habits, beliefs, traditions, things like that we kind of learned from our story, and that we also think to be important, that we want to be intentional about passing down to our kids and really embracing as part of our family culture. So we actually went on a getaway, just us two. We booked a resort for the weekend and went to a spa and everything like that. And it was just like a good, relaxing weekend without the kids. And we worked on our family mission and what we, important core values.
For us, there were a couple of things, like being able to get away in a new space where we can really think, right? And really have that like clear space, spa, relaxing area to think about what's really important to us. And it was great because at that time we realized that what we did is we both kind of wrote out what was important to us, and then we came together and then we aligned in so many things, but there were so many key aspects that we just really wanted to make sure were in our family, right? So for us developing this, we're like, okay, we are the Badgers, we believe in these things, and we want to make sure we leave these things daily. It's a daily reminder, even on those hard days where you're like, oh, I don't want to do that, but when you see it, you're like, okay, we're the Badgers, we do this together.
Companies are very intentional with the culture that they create within their company. So this is something we're all familiar with. She's done at her place of work. I've done at my place of work. This is common things for companies to talk about, where they actually put together, what's the company mission? What's the company core values? These are things that bring people together and unite around kind of that common vision and set of principles. And so we're like, why don't more people do that for the family? And really make the family that strong family culture. We actually worked with a company called Family Brand, who helped us kind of bring everything together and establish it. They were awesome to work with. They have a digital program and a group session. If you want more information, comment or send us a message on Instagram, and we can give you some more information on it. And we also have a discount code. But we thought that was super helpful, just working with them to help shape our mission and core values.
And meeting other families that are on this mission, you know what I mean? To really get the family culture together and just really having a mission and core values from your family, which is great to work with them.
Yeah, and we can share, some of the ones that we came up in terms of core values One was that like we as the Badgers are generous.
Yeah.
That was one that we got from talking with her family, that hosting and being generous to people around you in the community and stuff is really important to us. So that's one of us. Like, we are generous.
We matter.
We matter. That's another one. We can talk and listen to each other about anything. That's another one. We just want to
Inspire and elevate.
embrace open communication with our kids, you know, especially once they get older. Yeah, and we just feel like it's important to have some influence within the home. There's so much influence in the outside world that we want to make sure that we give our kids a strong foundation of things to believe in, and you know, a core value set to operate from.
Yeah, I love that.
Number 3. All right, this one a little bit more tactical, but we think super important, and that's just establishing a family trust. This basically includes like your estate planning, your will. You know, it really dictates if something does happen to us. Obviously, we hope we live a long life and are here for a long time. But if something does happen to us, make sure that everything's going to run smoothly in terms of who takes over, in terms of kid care or child care. If our kids are of age, you know, 18 or older, when and how do like the assets get handed down and distributed. We also want to make sure that you know, the family mission, core values, things like that are also part of it and passed down. And just make sure it's not messy, and that there's a plan in place, just for our kids and future generations as we get older. And like I said, it's something that we can continue to evolve over time. But you know, as we acquire more assets or build more wealth or find things to be super important, we can add those to the trust and the estate plan as we go. So we really set it up as a foundation just to get it started back in 2021 when Ayla was first, right after Ayla was born. But we just expect this to continue to evolve as we grow as a family. But just wanted to make sure that we had the foundation laid, and super important to us just to have that in place.
Right. And it gives clarity and peace of mind, right? We
100%.
know that we have this written somewhere. If we aren't able to make decisions or something happened, right? Like, they know that they have this reference point to go back to.
Yeah. And we want to make sure that we set our kids up and future grandkids potentially that with a plan and something that they can hopefully pass down themselves. Number 4, and that is starting a family business. And this is something that can be like totally part-time, or is something that, you know, the whole family does like full-time. You know, speaking for ourselves individually, Tondi still has her own career. I have my own career path. So we're not saying, ditch your own individual career paths, but we just feel like it's super important to actually have a family business that you either work, a few hours a week on, or like I said, becomes a little bit more of a full-time thing. We think it's super important because it's a way to kind of bring the family together to work towards some of these goals. Helps, I think, educate them on work ethic and have an understanding of business and building wealth and managing finances. Like, what better way to do that than just operate and work as a team on certain things. So for us specifically, we've done some things with like real estate, and we also have the social media business, and we've started working on some other things as well. Right now with the age of our kids, it's mainly just us two working on things, but it brings us together, I think, as a couple. And once our kids start getting older, definitely going to have them start working on some of the rental properties or take part in some of the businesses. Like I said, it can be simple things. Maybe it's something that you work a few hours a week on, or
summertime lemonade.
Yes, exactly. Maybe your family has a certain talent, but one, it can just get some more income coming in, and maybe it's small to start, and you use that to go on a family vacation or pay for a family vacation. But just getting the kids involved, working at it from a young age, and making sure that they grow up in that environment, I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I always think about how many hours we spend on working on other people's business, right? When we're at work and things like that. How about a family business where you're working together as one? Like, there's no better way for the kids and for us to learn, right? I can tell you, having a family business or running something can sometimes be a little frustrating, right? But I feel like we've learned so much about each other and how to work as a true team.
Number one ways that families build like true wealth and pass that down from generation to generation is through business and a family, entrepreneurship and things of that nature. So I think it's just great to get that started at a younger age. And if it does evolve into something that, builds, is super successful for your family, that's amazing. But it doesn't necessarily have to be anything super intense. But number 5, and this is, the final thing that we've been doing.
This is my favorite one, by the way.
We'd love to hear, love to hear from you guys if there's other things you're doing with your family that you think is super important, maybe that we didn't talk about here, because we're always looking to see, what else we can do to help kind of strengthen our family and build that lasting legacy. But number 5 is having like a 3-year family vision. We wanted to put a 3-year vision in place so that we could actually make these things a little bit more measurable and something that we can reflect back on if we're ever feeling unsure of the direction we're heading or where we want to go with our lives. We have this kind of 3-year vision. Of course, it can be evolved over time, but it has a set timeline and set like more specific goals that we're trying to accomplish as a family. Those might be goals around finances, goals around health or education for the kids, things of that nature, maybe more spiritual goals. So there's a ton of things, that you can get more specific on there. But we wanted to make sure that 3-year vision was in place for our family. And there's a great book on this. It's called Vivid Vision. And it's actually something that obviously a lot of companies do as well. They have their more overarching, mission and core values. But then the leadership team usually puts together a 3-year vision or annual goals for the company, and they share those out so that people make sure that they understand it and people can work towards these common goals. And if we get the whole family, once again, it gets us working together as a couple on these things and make sure that we're aligned on our kind of family goals. But as our kids get older, being able to bring them into the planning phase, as well as like executing on some of these goals and then celebrating once we've reached some of these goals as a family, we think is just going to be super powerful.
And I think that it's so interesting to me because whenever you're thinking about vision boards, you're always thinking about them being so personalized. So it's really interesting when you look at it as a family range, because then we're each other's accountability partners, right? Mm-hmm. And we are like, okay, wait, we have these as a goal and how do we get there? And we always go by the quote, like thoughts become things. But really, if you don't write it down or if you don't have it somewhere where you can look back at, sometimes you can get a little lost, right? So I really feel like there's something so powerful about having it written out and also having an accountability partner, accountability family,
Yep, that's awesome. And I think, as part of that book that I mentioned, The Vivid Vision, they talk about vision boards, which we think are great. We're big on that stuff too. But actually writing it out doesn't leave much room for like interpretation. If you look at a picture, they say a picture tells or paints 1,000 words. Yeah. So if you're just looking at a vision board, it could mean many different things to many different people. But if you actually get specific enough to write these things down, write out a full 3-year vision, that doesn't leave much up for interpretation. It's pretty clear on what the goals are and what we're trying to accomplish. So that's why I think it's important to actually write it down.
It's amazing. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hope that was helpful. We'll keep you posted on other things that we're doing and as this kind of evolves.